it's your wedding day. You treat it how you want to, but I think you should just be reminded that this is the one day in your life that you can be the most selfish version of yourself.
One day.
Like, yeah, one day. One of the owners looked at me and he said, now you got to remember that every Saturday is someone else's best day of their life. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's so true. Like, you have to be able to adapt and transition and work well with people in a way that you're jumping from one thing to the next.
Welcome to another episode of Connect Media. Today I have a different guest with me. They are in the wedding industry, and I'm excited to have her come on and talk about what she do and where she work at. So can you just introduce us and what you do for a living?
Yeah, my name's newly Nikki Fondren. I just recently got married, so I'm getting used to that. I am the venue manager at Dodson Farm. I've been there since June 1st, 2023.
Okay, nice. And I have worked at Dodson Farm quite some time. It's probably my third year working at Dodson Farm, and Dodson Farm is amazing. It's an amazing place to have a wedding at, for sure. But I'm not gonna talk about too much of it because you are. So we're gonna get into that. But I want to ask you first. You are a venue manager, right? Mm-hmm. So what kind of, can you share with us what led you into the event planning industry and how that led you to Dodson Farm?
Yeah, it's kind of, never really saw myself being here, but so to kind of backtrack a little bit, backstory, I worked at Mississippi State for 8 years. It was my first big girl job out of college. But I loved it. I mean, it became, you know, what I was building my career on. And I did a lot of different things in that job that kind of opened up some different doors and different interests and things like that. But I planned a lot of events in that job. And I'd kind of always in the back of my mind thought, oh, it'd be so fun to be a wedding coordinator or wedding planner or to work at a wedding venue. But kind of at the time, there weren't really even a lot of wedding venues in Starkville. I also kind of assumed back then that I would eventually leave Starkville.
Right.
Obviously have not for any real reason. I love Starkville. But I'm trying to think. In 2022, I was asked to coordinate a wedding at Dodson Farm, actually, because we do require a day of coordinator. Right. And so I was just kind of fulfilling that role for them. But I kind of told them up front, hey, this isn't like, I'm going to take this seriously. This isn't just like I'm going to show up for an hour and just get y'all down the aisle. And, you know, I was there 9 o'clock that morning and didn't leave until 9 o'clock that night. I walked 10 miles that day around that farm and, you know, was just all over the place, but I loved it. Like I went home and I was like, man, I'm tired, but that was fun. And it was kind of one of those things that, how do you really get to be a coordinator or a planner without just like one day just being like, I'm this, you know what I mean?
Right.
And so it was kind of what I did. I had that wedding underneath my belt. I had a lot of event experience and planning and just coordinating events in general and being in so many weddings. I've been in a lot of weddings over the years. I was in a wedding in June 2022, and I think that was also kind of a little bit of a defining moment as far as weddings go. Right. She had a really, really great planner and coordinator. She actually got married at Dodson in 2023. Okay. But it was just such a big wedding with so many moving parts that, you know, her coordinator was off doing so many other things. I was following the bride around doing things for her. And again, I was like, that was really fun. So fast forward a little bit, you know, I started doing social media, kind of putting myself out there as like kind of a part-time gig. And never, my old boss kind of says, oh, I knew you would leave me as soon as you started putting yourself out there as that. I did not think that I would leave Mississippi State to actually pursue this. I really didn't. It was not the plan. But when I started dating my now husband, he had gotten a new car about a month after we started dating. And we were driving around and we were going down South Montgomery all the way down towards Dodson Farm. And I said, oh, take a left. I was like, the wedding venue that I told you I coordinated at is down this road. And we kind of pulled in and the gate was closed, so we couldn't really pull all the way in. And I said, it would be so cool to work at a venue like this one day. And I kid you not, in less than a year later, the opportunity fell in my lap, and I was like, I feel like I have to pursue this.
Wow.
So it truly was like a not in the plan, you know, and it really just kind of fell into, I love event coordinating, I love planning, I love all the little details that make an event come together, and then add in the whole aspect of an actual wedding where it's someone's best day of their life.
Right.
And you get to be a part of that, just makes it even more special.
It does. That's amazing how like you manifested it. Like
yeah, it was weird.
Yeah. Yeah, I always tell my guests or anybody, like, I'm a prime example of that. Like, for instance, the studio, I told my dad, I said, give me like 5 or 6 years, I'm gonna have a studio. And the year 2 I had it came about. So like, just speaking on it and like working towards it, it's gonna happen. Yeah. You just gotta work towards it every day. And
the right opportunities are gonna come to you.
Yep. And so like Dodson Farm, like I know you had you told me about it a little bit in the past, like a couple weeks ago, I want to say. But for our viewers, can you explain like the past of Dodson Farm, like how it came about or whatnot?
Yeah. So it was a family-owned dairy farm in the early 1950s, like kind of mid-century, I guess you could say. Right. And still isn't a family-owned business today. Obviously not a dairy farm. Right. But it's really important to the family that it kind of still keeps that charm, I guess you could say, of, being able to visualize what the farm was like then, because a lot of people don't know that Oktibbeha County was actually like the capital of dairy farms in the South. Right. During that time, there were thousands of dairy farms just in Oktibbeha County, but only a few hundred of them were actually family owned. And so, theirs was kind of a special place among just a couple of other family owned dairy farms in comparison to how many there actually were. So the farm kind of went downhill, and I think that, so the three owners, they're all siblings. Their mom grew up on the farm. She was, a little girl on the dairy farm, and now lives across the street, right next door to one of the owners, her daughter, and her husband, and they raised their family there, and they grew up on the farm having bonfires and having birthday parties and things like that. So it's really always been a special place for the family. And I think that was one thing for me when I started to interview with them. I was like, I remember sending a text message after my first interview to one of the owners and saying that I would be honored to be a part of the legacy that y'all have created in this business, and I think I still kind of get like chills about that even now, just because, it really is to bring someone in from the outside, someone that they barely knew. It means a lot that they trust me with so much. And it's been awesome to like get to know them and work with them and figure out dynamics of, a family owned business. And so, Miss Cornelia, she still walks around the farm from across the street almost every day. And it's kind of cool to see her out there because, like I said, she grew up on that farm. The house that is called Page Place on the property, one of the owners and his wife, they completely renovated it and took it down to the studs. And it's kind of what we call the bridal suite, but we also host like wedding showers, bridesmaids luncheons, baby showers, and things like that as well in there. And so that is also, you know, part of the property. Obviously, that was original to the property. The original fireplaces are in the house. You know, the same doors on some of the doors. You know, just different things like that they really tried to, you know, hold on to, I guess you could say, for as the years go on.
Right. Now, I just think that's just amazing how it was a dairy farm to what it is now. Like, I'm gonna throw some shots that I got from it. From me working there, I'm gonna throw some shots on the screen. But from what it was and to what it looks like now, it is amazing. It really is. Like,
they've done a really, really good job of, you know, just keeping up the property.
They really did, for sure.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It is. It is. I know they spent a lot of money on that. Because I just imagine, because when I had got my spot, you know, I was a kid. I didn't understand what all goes into it. But just going through that process, it made me appreciate business owners that's getting a building, or when they building a new restaurant. I appreciate it more and tend to look real closely, because I noticed some places they don't really have, they lack in some places in the restaurant or whatnot. And so, like, it just makes you appreciate it a lot more. But and speaking of you, that day you said you was like running around with the bride and you knew that you loved that. Can you tell me some other experiences that you had that you can remember that you'll never forget? Can you share some of them experiences with us?
I mean, there have been a lot since I have started working, you know, at Dodson, obviously, just because we're running with being booked every single weekend. We run into a bride almost every single weekend. And sometimes I'm coordinating and sometimes I'm not. I think, honestly, one of the biggest things for me almost every single wedding, honestly, is making a point to try and see the bride right before she walks down the aisle. And sometimes I try, without being invasive, to like snap a picture, just because, like, to capture that moment. And I try to send them random pictures I get afterwards. But you know, they're with their dad or their brother or whoever it is that's walking them down the aisle, and you can tell, like, the excitement and the nervousness and just all the feelings that they're feeling. You can see it on their face. And I think that is really it's special, you know, in a way, to kind of, not everybody gets to be with them in that moment. Everybody's waiting on the bride. And there have been many times where, you know, the music didn't coordinate the way that they wanted it to, or you know, whoever was starting the music didn't start it in the right place, or, you know, and they're like, just open the doors, it's gone too long. And I'm like, they're waiting on you. We will stand here for 5 minutes if it means that we get to the point where you want the doors to open, because this is about you. It's not about how long people wait on you, because that's what they're here for.
That is so true.
And your fiance will be at the end of the aisle no matter what. So you know, it's those moments, I think, you know, dealing with, you know, crises that they're like kind of freaking out about, and it's like, we got this, you know. One of the biggest things with being an mostly outdoor venue, people ask about the weather, they worry about the weather, and the biggest thing that I tell people is that the show must go on. We always make it happen, and it's still going to be great no matter what. If it rains, if it is sunshine, and if it's windy, I mean, anything, you're going to get, as long as there's not any tornadoes, then we're good. So, you know, I always just like to assure them that we're going to make it happen no matter what. You have to do that with some brides. I definitely had some brides where I had to make sure that they just keep a cool, level-headed, because of course they spent so much time planning that day. And when something goes wrong, it's like, you know, I put so much time into it. So I never knocked them for feeling that way, and I always just tell them, like, just listen to us, because we're gonna be here and make sure that you get the experience that you always wanted.
But yeah, you just have to talk to them and just reassure them throughout the day.
Sometimes you have to remind them, like, you're paying me and entrusting in me to make sure that, so trust your vendors, trust the people that you've hired to be here on your big day to fulfill everything that you've put so much hard work into, like everything that you've communicated, everything that you've planned down to the last detail, you know. You just enjoy the day because you don't want to look back and remember being stressed. You want to look back and remember having the best time with your bridesmaids and your mom and your groom's mom and, you know, whoever it may be.
Exactly what you want to do. Because, like, even I had this past year in 2023, I crashed my drone into the pond. I don't know if I ever told you.
I don't think so.
Yeah, it was like a $2,000 drone. And during the middle of the day, I had crashed it, and they was like watching me, see how I react, and they was like, "You're not mad?" I'm like, today is not about me. What y'all talking about? Yeah, it's in
I'll
the
be mad about it tomorrow.
Yeah, like I was telling them, like, I can worry about that. I just gotta make sure I get the SD card. I'm fine.
Yeah,
but I'm not finna be upset and, you know, have y'all deal with that. No, we can fix that later.
Yeah. And
they were just so shocked that I was like that. I was like, no, this is not my day. It's not about me. So I always tell the bride, like, make sure not to only get the vendors that you want, but make sure that when you do get to chat with them, is that the vibe you want? Yeah. Because I've seen a good many people that do photography or video, and they are great at what they do, but they might be like a little introvert. Yeah. They might not talk as much as you would want them to talk. Yeah. And so I always tell them, like, if you okay with that, there's nothing wrong with it. They gonna get the job done regardless. Yeah. But if you want something for more experience of that day, get somebody that's gonna always hype you up. Yeah. That's gonna always be around you. Yeah. Asking if you okay. All them little things is gonna matter. Because I know every wedding that I've done with a photographer or coordinator, when they got that high energy, everybody brings it. Yeah. Not just one person. So but that's definitely important. You know, the vendors you got. So
yeah, it makes it a lot better whenever you have a good team of vendors. It makes me think, there was a bride this past Sunday doing her bridal portraits, and I was meeting with her afterwards to do kind of like her final walkthrough, because her wedding's coming up in a couple weeks, and I'd said, well, you know, I'll give y'all about 45 minutes to an hour to do the photo shoot and everything. And she was like, I think it'll be like 30 minutes. I don't like to be in the spotlight, so I don't think we'll take pictures that long. And I was like, I know, no, bro, no photographer is going to let you take pictures for 30 minutes. It's going to be about an hour probably. And I got out there, started talking to the mom, and they really had not gotten very far. And it was about 45 minutes or so into the photo shoot, and they were like, oh, we kind of just started. And I was like, that's fine. And that photographer, she had never been out to Dotson Farm before, but she had a very good friend that had been out there a few times and was like, you're gonna love it. It's beautiful. It's amazing. Like, you're just gonna love all the different, you know, things that you can get out there. And that photographer was, you know, I think probably knowing that this bride wasn't super excited about doing this bridal shoot with just her, you know, behind the camera or in front of the camera. And she was hyping her. I mean, it was just, oh my gosh, you have to see these. Look at these. You look so pretty. The lighting is so good. I mean, just on and on and on. And the mom loved it because I think also knowing her own daughter, she was like, she is her biggest hype woman right now. And I was like, that's amazing, you know? Like, so you got to have people that can adjust to you and, you know, like you said, kind of bring the right energy that you need and get that good feel for them.
Yeah, it's always great to schedule calls. I know. Yeah, I had brides where I didn't get to call them because I just didn't want to do that. You know, that's just one that lingo. They rather just text, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I always encourage them to, like, if you want to call, let's call. Let's get to know each other more. So I feel like even for me, when I get to talk to them more often, the film be better. The film, it's something about it. I don't know what it is. When I'm able to talk to them twice or 3 times during that period of time, it's like that film it just come out perfect. Yeah. And I don't know what it is about that. I don't know. I guess because since I know what they're into or how they are as a person, like their demeanors and stuff, I can kind of relay those feelings that they may like through the video. So it definitely helps.
Yeah. No, I get that. When people come up to me on my bride's wedding day that I didn't really get to talk to very much before then, and they say, hey, we got to figure out this. Like, do you think she would be okay with this? And I'm like, one, I'm not her coordinator, so I don't feel comfortable making that decision. So we should probably talk to somebody else. But two, I don't feel like I know her well enough to say whether or not she would be okay with that. And so I really do. There have been very few weddings where, you know, it was probably because I wasn't the one that booked it because it was booked before I started working there or whatever, or the timing just didn't work out for us to meet. And so they met with someone else, you know, one of the owners. But I really do. I try to make a point to be, at least if I didn't book the wedding, you know, be there for that final walkthrough so I can at least get to know them in that way and get a feel for what they're super particular about and what they're super laid back about, you know, because some brides are very particular and some are like, I don't care, I just want to get married.
Do whatever. I definitely had my fair share of brides like that, and of course, even the ones that wanted certain stuff done, I still enjoyed them a lot for sure. Because I feel like some people, some vendors, they kind of want to have that creative freedom sometimes. But I'm all about, like, if they can show me exactly what they want, that's kind of making it easier on me, of course. But of course, I probably can't be as creative, but they are telling me what they want. Yeah, and that's the greatest thing you could ever give any client, not just a bride, but a client in general, because that's what they value. Yeah, and if you can hit those value points, they'll pay you even more than you ever thought you could get. So that's something. Yeah, I don't mind it either way. I just want to make sure that they get the experience and they get what they want. So that's the biggest thing with me. But speaking on the Dotson Farm and like how you cater to the rehearsal dinners and stuff like that, like what sets Dotson Farm apart when y'all are decorating it for different styles and themes? Like, can you kind of explain what sets Dotson Farm apart?
I think a lot of times it's the vendors that come in, but also when they come in and ask us if they can do this or do that, we're like 98% of the time gonna say, unless it's something crazy, which, you know, we've had some crazy things that people have asked for, but we want to make it happen. And if they have a vision about something from the bride or from the vendor that the vendor has run from, you know, by the bride, we want to be able to help them see it through. And so, you know, when I'm doing a walkthrough with the bride, a lot of them ask me for suggestions as far as setup or where something should go. Obviously, we have a very general setup of what we can suggest for what we know works, because it's just what a lot of people do. But I also tell brides all the time, I love to see people go outside the box and do something different. So if you want to do something different with your layout or bring in something from a vendor that has never been brought in before, like, we love to see it. You know, we love to see it done a different way. You know, use that Pinterest board, you know.
Go crazy with it.
So I think that that's one thing. You know, I just met with a group of vendors and a groom's mom, because the bride and the bride's mom live out of state, the other day, and they are doing, I mean, quite literally everything like we have never done it before. And I'm super excited to see how it all comes together, just because it's not one of those things where, ooh, that's not gonna work. You know, but I think that they think that's gonna work, but it's just not. It's like they have really put a lot of thought into this, and we want to, you know, help them see it through as much as we can. And so I think that that's one thing that really sets us apart, is like, if you have a big vision, you know, we want to help you see that to fruition as much as we can. You know, obviously there's like certain things we have to kind of draw a line. We can't just say, come in and do whatever you want. But 98% of the time we're gonna say, you know, we've never done that before, but we're gonna make it happen. We'll figure it out, you know. And I kind of always have that mindset with a lot of things, is that we'll figure it out. There's a will, when there's a will, there's a way.
There's a way, right. And like,
so
I was gonna ask you like, so I'm finally finna get to do one, probably 2 this year. A wedding on Friday and a wedding on Sunday.
Yeah.
I'm finally gonna be able to do that this year. So do y'all have like packages or like, can y'all do weddings on them days?
Yeah, so I actually booked my first Friday wedding. I think it's in December this year, and we're more than likely going to do more Sunday weddings than we will Friday weddings. Mm-hmm. We do get a few inquiries about Fridays, but normally if we do a Friday wedding, it's a little bit harder to do a Saturday wedding. Yeah. But if we do a Saturday and a Sunday wedding, we can make both of them go off without a hitch. Obviously, the Sunday wedding is going to have a little bit more limitations because the Saturday wedding kind of takes more of a precedent. Right. Mainly because they're paying more to be there. Okay. The Sunday package is a little bit more inclusive as far as including things that we have to offer, and it's also less expensive. So it's a little bit more enticing to kind of say, hey, I'll do a Sunday wedding. But the access to the property is a little bit less time, than the Saturday wedding would have. You're not going to be able to have your rehearsal dinner at the farm because if there's a Saturday wedding going on, then, we just can't really, unfortunately, do anything about that. But most people we have great options in Starkville as far as other event spaces that offer things like that. And we make recommendations, to people when they run into that and say, hey, these places would be a great place for you to go and do that. Right. And so that's the other thing too, is that we really try and work with people as much as possible. We don't just like book it and then say, all right, see you in a year on wedding day. I'm like, this is my job. Don't feel like you're bothering me. This is what I'm here to do. If you have any questions, need suggestions, need recommendations, just ask, because all I can do is say, I don't know. I've never worked with, I don't even know, because I feel like I've worked with it all. But, we make, like I said, we make it happen.
Yeah, you make it happen for sure.
But yes, the packages do look a little bit different, but normally for a Sunday, like say I send the Sunday package that has all the options as far as rentals, and they say, I don't have any interest in using any of these rentals, do y'all have a different pricing? I can work with people on pricing when it comes to Friday and Saturday and Sunday weddings. Saturdays are pretty set in stone just because we're more than likely going to be booked on those days. But for a bride that's maybe on a little bit more of a budget and just really wants to get married at Dodson Farm, because why wouldn't you? Then, we can work with them a little bit more.
Yeah. I definitely, I'm actually making a YouTube video on that, like on different like wedding hacks, like just to be, and that's one of the tips that's going to be in it. So stay tuned for that. But like just to ask, because some people, I feel like, even me, I didn't think that would be any different. Like if you ask to do it on another day, will it be cheaper or would it be more expensive? Yeah. So I just feel like that should be some advice to some brides that that don't know anything about booking a venue. Just make sure you just ask certain questions, because I didn't know that. Like I said, I didn't know that. I thought if you get in the venue, it's gonna be on that Saturday. It's gonna be that price and that's it. Yeah. But you can actually ask for certain stuff. Like you saying, they might not want that extra stuff. Yeah. And I mean, it helps them out in the long run anyway, because they still be able to get married there, and you still get their service and everything. So like it plays out for sure.
We transition so quickly, from catering to this group to catering to the next. So I mean, because I never want a Saturday bride to think, oh, you've booked this wedding like right after me, you don't care about my wedding. It's like, no, absolutely not. That's not the case at all. And then for the Sunday bride, that don't ever want them to feel like the Saturday wedding is more important than theirs, So it's we work really hard to make the experience but great for both parties. Right. I mean, it's important for sure.
Well, I think y'all are doing a great job of that, because people are still doing both.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, we try really hard. So I hope people are having good experiences and feel that way.
And of course, speaking of brides, do you got any little gems or advice you would give a bride in planning their wedding, or some insights on planning a wedding. Do you have anything?
I mean, I think one of the biggest things is kind of like what you said a minute ago about make sure you really talk to vendors, like, and get different quotes. Don't feel pressured to book with the first DJ that you talk to just because they came back with a good price or whatever it might be. You know, I've worked with a DJ before that literally got in a car accident with a drunk driver the night before. It ruined all his equipment.
Dang.
And he was able to, I mean, I think he borrowed and rented a lot of it to be able to do that because it was a Sunday wedding. Or no, it was a Saturday because it was a Friday night that he was doing a DJ gig or whatever the night before and leaving. And he was like, please don't tell the bride.
Dang.
And I just thought that was like so nice that he was like, I don't want the bride to be worried about me and what's going on with me. I'm here. I'm fine. I'm grateful. We're going to have a great time. And I was just like, do you need extra strength Tylenol? Like, I was like, are you okay? Like, I mean, but it was just amazing to, you know, I mean, and I asked her, I said, please send me his information because I want to recommend him because one, he did a great job. Two, just knowing the kind of vendor that he was after going through a situation like that, that it was very much in his mind, the show must go on even after going through something like that.
He almost died.
He could have been seriously hurt. And he's like he was a middle-aged man too. I mean, so I know that, you know, being in my 30s now, like getting in a car accident would probably really affect me, even if I got out of the car walking. Right. So, you know, I mean, just really getting to know your vendors and getting a good feel for them. Also something that I tell brides when I hear them start talking about, well, I don't want to make grandma upset, or I don't want to make so-and-so upset, or I want to make sure we do this to make this person happy. I'm like, look, it's your wedding day. You treat it how you want to, but I think you should just be reminded that this is the one day in your life that you can be the most selfish version of yourself.
One day.
Like, yeah. One day. But it's not about pleasing everybody else. Like, yes, I know there are going to be little things that you want to do to include somebody or include something that makes someone feel special that you thought about it in that way, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know, wearing a certain bracelet or a ring or a necklace or using a certain someone's garter or, you know, whatever it may be. At the end of the day, it's your wedding day and it's about you and your husband, future husband, getting married, and that's it. That's all it's about. I mean,
and you stressing over something little as that, I mean, it's no need, to be honest. It makes sense to me. It makes sense, a lot more sense to me. Cause I know if I'm having a wedding and my old pappy over here upset because I ain't wearing a certain color, I'm like, look, man, I'm still gonna get married regardless.
Yeah, exactly.
Just because of the color or not, but you would be surprised the people that are upset about the silliest things, and it's like, come on. But you can't get involved, you know, you can't really say anything. You just kind of have to dilute the situation as much as you can and let them deal with it. And I don't know if you okay with talking about it. You, like you said, you had got recently married, and you got married in Paris, right?
Yeah.
So how, if you don't mind talking about that, how was that experience? Because I know a lot of people, that's some women's dream to get married somewhere like that, like in Paris. You know, like what type of experience that was?
It was amazing. I mean, and to clarify, we're still having a reception in June at Dodson Farm.
So I was wondering about that.
A lot of people were like, well, you work at a wedding venue, why would you not, you know, do it there? But honestly, without going into super detail, to, you know, the nitty-gritty details of how we ended up there, I've always seen myself getting married in a non-traditional way, I guess you could say, exactly what that looked like. And obviously depending on who I was marrying, because if they wanted a super traditional wedding, obviously it's not a terrible deal at the end of the day. I would have been happy to do it that way as well. Yeah. But at the end of the day, just through different circumstances, we had talked about fully eloping somewhere when we first started talking about marriage and getting engaged and things like that. I had said that I wanted to kind of know what that looked like and exactly what we wanted by the time we got engaged, because I didn't want to spend months trying to figure that out after we were engaged. Right. So through a series of events, we were like, well, why don't we kind of revert back to what we originally were talking about and go somewhere and get married. We had talked about Paris. I also love Italy. That's like my favorite country. Yeah. Besides the US of A. And and I was born on the 4th of July, so I was like, out the womb patriotic, you know. But anyway, I was just like, well, then why don't we just get married in Paris, do this the way that we want to do it, and then have a reception afterwards at Dodson and still be able to celebrate with our people, with our family, with the people that we love, you know. So it was really fun planning it all. It was a little stressful, like worrying if I was gonna find somebody to do flowers. I was very okay though with making my bouquet, and if it wasn't, you know, if it didn't look like a bouquet that a professional with experience had made, I was okay with that. I did my own hair and makeup because it was just crazy expensive to have someone do it over there, which I know not everybody would be comfortable doing, but I did practice a lot. I watched a lot of YouTube videos. Yeah. I did a makeup lesson with a makeup artist in New Albany, and just did a lot of things to prepare, I guess you could say. Like a lot of thought went into all of it. Right. Obviously, it's not that difficult to, at the end of the day, to figure out all those details, just because it's so popular to get married in Paris, to elope in Paris. Right. So they're very prepared for it over there. They have so many groups of people that can marry you and do all these things. Obviously, you're not legally married in Paris. We got legally married in the U.S. Right. It's just how it has to happen. Right. Yeah. But, you know, they gave us a certificate. We signed it, and the officiant signed it, and he wrote a beautiful ceremony for us. We got to pick where we got married. It was free to get married there. We paid nothing to get married in front of the beautiful Medici fountain. That's crazy. I think people thought think just in general, when they see photos of people getting married, obviously you can go real big and it can cost a crazy amount of money. Right. But I think it just depends on what you're wanting, the experience that you want to have. And it was whatever it is that you're wanting, you can make it a reality at the end of the day if you want it. True. It's kind of like what we were talking about when we first started, and so when I texted the photographer that went with us, Allie, I was just like, look, I don't even know if this is realistic. Tyler and I are talking about this. We're not even engaged yet, you know, all these things. And she was just like, oh my gosh, absolutely. I will send you a proposal tomorrow. You know, I mean, she was just like, you're making my dreams come true. And I mean, it was just, she was on board from the second that I sent the message, which was comforting to feel. But at the same time, I was like, all right, I don't know how much this is going to cost me. Like, cause I know we were going to have to pay for, you know, obviously certain things, but it was so much more doable and realistic than people assume. Right. So obviously it's become way more popular nowadays to do things in a non-traditional way, kind of do things your own way, which is kind of what Tyler and I say, that we did it our own. We're doing it our own way because we're still going on a bachelor and bachelorette trip. We're still having showers, you know, I mean, we're still doing it all. It's just the pressure's off, honestly. Yeah. You know, we're married, we're moving on with our lives, and we're enjoying, you know, adjusting to that life. And it's still getting to have fun with it. And
That's
so,
crazy.
but booking like vendors and working with vendors and things like that, obviously doing what I do, it's hard to kind of like feel like you're spreading the wealth because you love so many different vendors. But that has been fun, kind of working with them on a personal level.
Yeah.
And because obviously a lot of times if I'm talking to vendors, it's for someone else.
Right.
So that's been really fun, kind of planning the reception and everything. And but I think people just knowing that it's more doable than you think that it is. So if that's something that you want to do, all you have to do is just look into it.
Just try it.
That was I was like, I told Tyler, I said, we're not telling anybody that we're looking into this or thinking about seriously doing this until we know more facts.
About it, yeah.
And that that it's more real, that we can do this. And then, you know, his parents were so great because that was basically our honeymoon. And, you know, the guy's supposed to pay for the honeymoon. So they like gave obviously we paid for a lot as well, just out of our own pocket, doing things the way that we wanted to do it.
Right.
But, you know, my parents paid for the photographer. We paid for the flowers,
Right.
you know, almost in the same traditional way that you would if you were getting married in the
right.
U.S.
Yeah. You got it done either way.
Yeah.
For sure.
So it was an amazing experience for sure.
Yeah, I bet. I remember, cause I remember you was talking to me about it. You was asking about videography, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna get up with her, you know, cause I remember you asked. And then I remember I told myself after me, like, just make sure I just talk to her. So if she got any other questions, just to let her know about them.
Yeah.
And I didn't get to. And then the very next time, I think you was gone after that week, I want to say.
Yeah.
Something, if not, it was the next, something like that. And you was in Paris. I was like, oh my God. I remember looking, like, man, I could have went to Paris. And that's something I've been wanting to do, is do like a destination wedding, like go out of the country. But I know I probably wouldn't have done it still because, like, my brother is my second shooter, and I bring him on every wedding I go to since he's been coming with me for the past 2 years now. And so, like, we had a chance to go to Oklahoma, but I didn't take it because I want to make sure. For one, he's too young. I want him to get to a certain age.
Yeah.
If he's with me, he's a certain age to be able to handle himself. Yeah. And yeah, that's one thing for sure. But I told her, I said, look, man, we potentially could have went to Paris, but yeah, we could have went to
There's
Paris.
Still opportunity.
No, yeah, of course. But I was just letting him know, like, man, once you learn all this stuff and you're able, and I know you're ready, you'll be able to have these type of trips eventually.
Yeah.
And so I hope that, like, I always tell him, like, stories like where we could have been, where we would have been at if I wasn't booked or whatever, that he can have.
Yeah.
But hearing you having that wedding in Paris and seeing the photo, I was like, man, it made me happy because I'm glad you had somebody that was there to document it all.
Oh,
for
yeah.
sure.
That was, because, I mean, obviously there are photographers in Paris.
In Paris, yeah.
But you don't, I mean, I knew Allie. I've known her for a few years now, and I knew that whenever I got married that, you know, hopefully if she wasn't booked, that she was definitely somebody that I was going to reach out to first.
Thanks.
And so I told Tyler, I said, well, look, I said, this is the girl that I really want to do this, you know, photography and everything. I was like, I am going to text her and just see what happens.
Right. Yeah.
And so it just worked out. And, you know, her husband, she's teaching her husband some different things to potentially be a second shooter when he's not working and things like that. So he came along and he took some photos, and he got some really good kind of just like candid shots while Allie was taking, you know, her kind of viewpoint from a different angle. He was over there, did a little bit of video just to get some clips, you know, of things. So
yeah, I need to definitely. I would like to talk to Allie.
She is great.
Yeah. Is she based in Starkville?
So she used to be, but they moved to Birmingham for her husband's job.
Okay, Birmingham.
And so, but she's in Starkville a lot.
Okay.
So
yeah. I would love to meet. I want to say from our group, Carter told me about her.
yes. So
I think
Carter and Mason, Allie's husband, they're like best friends. And so
Okay.
Allie and Lana, Carter's wife, they're like
a
best
clique.
couple friends.
Dope.
So when she comes to Starkville, she stays there a lot.
Okay.
And so they've stayed connected a lot. And Lana, Carter's wife, took Allie's job at Mississippi State when Allie left Starkville.
Okay.
And so they kind of stayed connected through that as
Throughout the
well.
years.
And yeah, so
That's what's
kind
up.
of a, connection kind of thing. Like Carter and Lana knew that we were eloping because obviously Allie had told them that they were going to Paris,
Right.
and so they knew. But
yeah, I'm like I said, I'm glad that y'all had the experience and came back safely and everything for sure. And hearing your journey and how you got into event planning, like what is one of the lessons that you felt like that you learned that helped you as a person from it all?
As a person, I know one thing that I think about a lot is it was my very first wedding as the venue manager at Dodson Farm. And so this was like the beginning of June last year. And one of the owners looked at me and he said, now you got to remember that every Saturday is someone else's best day of their life. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's so true. Like you have to be able to adapt and transition and work well with people in a way that you're jumping from one thing to the next. Like, once weddings are back to back to back, like you're mostly like we were talking about a Saturday and Sunday wedding. I mean, you're transitioning quick.
Yeah.
And people are just so different.
Yeah.
So I think adapting to working with different people and not projecting like past frustrations from, working with a vendor that frustrated me or working with a groomsman that was rude to me because he had had too much to drink or, whatever it might be, not bringing that into the next situation, the next wedding, the next event. That is kind of something I had learned in my previous job, but is definitely translated into this job, and then, can translate into real life as well, just like everyday life.
Makes sense.
But that has stuck with me. Alan, one of the owners, saying that he was like, every Saturday is someone else's best day of their life. And I'm like, that is so true. It's just another Saturday for us.
Yeah.
It's just another wedding. But it's someone else's, they weren't at that wedding last Saturday. They won't be at the one next Saturday. This is their day.
Yeah, and that's something I had to learn over time when I first started. I want to say I first started like in 21, weddings wise. I think I had one in 2020. I keep forgetting about it. I want to say it was just one though. But 21 is really like it just popped off for me.
Yeah.
For the most
Everybody
part.
was like, we gotta get married in case COVID happens again.
That's when it happened. But I had to remember that like every weekend is different. Like that wedding was exciting, but I got to do it again.
Yeah.
And so you got to bring the same energy. And that's something I've been telling my second shooter, like, man, you got to have it. Like, they're going to be asking for it. Like, he even had a bride. She didn't confront him, but she was giving him tips because she realized how young he was. Like, look, you just need to talk more. And I was like, that she's telling you, that's good advice that they telling you. Because some people, they don't have to tell you at all. But I told him, like, he'll get it, you'll get it over time. But that is definitely one thing I had to learn as well. Being able to adapt to the different types of families and their beliefs and what their humors. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Different types of humors, of course. So, and that's something I was good at growing up, being able to read the room real fast. I just have to listen, sit back and just listen to how everybody talk. Yeah. And then I can kind of segue from there. But yeah, I realize that's kind of tough for some people. And so, but like a lot of people, they thought I was a quiet person in some cases, but it's like, I'm just reading everything. Like, I'm just trying to make sure when I do say something, it's not like, what are you talking about? Yeah. But yeah, that's definitely something I had to adapt to. I'm trying to think of something, what else too. I think I was trying to say. I would say one of the things I love about doing weddings the most is how creative I can be for the most part. Because sometimes it can be a long day and you still have fun, but that was a long day. And when you edit it takes a couple days too. But like all those feelings kind of goes away when you finish the product. Like you're like, that was so worth it.
Yeah.
Like, God, look what it came out to be. And I remember I was just telling somebody this the other day. When I first started, I was doing, I was filming like a beer commercial during COVID. And it was in my kitchen. And first time I ever really had a camera in my hand that was doing like commercial stuff. And we was doing it, and me and my dad were looking at each other. We was like, are we filming it? Like, are we making the video? Because we never experienced it.
Yeah.
And it was like, I guess. Then I went to go edit it. And it came together. I said, look, he said, bro, there's no way we just came up with that. And I knew I had something then once I knew I had something because I was able to create it that way when it's kind of hard to explain. I was able to, while I'm filming, I could see the video already. And I realized that's kind of hard for some people to already visualize exactly how that wedding is going to be. Just by filming from that day. Yeah. And I knew from that day, like, I'm gonna be okay. I just gotta get the opportunity and get better at it and perfect it. The look of it, of course. But yeah, that's definitely one thing that I learned from it all.
Yeah, that's cool.
For sure. And do you got any like questions for me for the most part? I know I've been asking you all the questions and stuff.
I didn't really think before I got here about any questions, but well, so how many weddings do you have booked this year?
This year?
Because I know you said you were getting pretty booked.
Okay, not counting that one that we talked about earlier, probably 23.
That's awesome. So are you putting a limit on how many you book a year?
No.
Okay.
Right now I'm not.
Right now, yeah.
Because
maybe eventually.
Yeah, eventually. Yeah, I'm gonna actually. My plan is this year, because I just changed my prices this past year. Yeah. So my prices are different now. I'm planning on keeping these prices this year, of course, and the next year keep the same. But then next, I think probably 26 maybe. I'm gonna change 2026. I'm gonna change my price again. Yeah. And then go from there. Cause that, of course, that's gonna limit certain people. Yeah. That probably wanna go with me, but yeah, I strive to do as many as I can. Yeah. And of course, I turn down a lot because I'm like the only main shooter right now. I turn down probably over 30 of them. Yeah. You see what I'm saying? That's double, and I can only be at one place. So I was definitely. Right. That's why I've been trying to get my second shooter to get comfortable, and when he get older, to do it more often too, because that's a whole nother income for him. Yeah. So, but yeah, that's how many I got this year. I think it's like 23. Yeah.
It's so funny, like when you're starting out and you're grinding and you're like, I'll take anything I can get, you know, and like, not that is where you are, because you are very established now at this point. But it's funny because I saw a video I was a florist on Instagram, because just like follow a bunch of random, you know, florist DJs, whatever, you know. And she was talking about how when she first like really got her feet on the ground, she was doing like, you know, sometimes 2 weddings in one day. So she was doing over like 50, 60 weddings in a year. And now she books, gosh, what did she say in her video? She only books like 15 or 20 a year, but she's a $10,000 minimum on her florals for a wedding. And I'm just like, oh gosh. You know, so she must live in a place where that market, you know, can handle that, obviously, because in Mississippi that is a little bit harder.
10K is pretty, whew.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But it's just kind of funny how the more established you get, like your goals change as far as like you think that it would go to, oh, I'm booking more and more, you know, events, weddings, whatever it is, but you like go backwards. but because you're so desirable, you can up your pricing. You know, I mean, the people really see value in your work, and you know, something I think that reputation that you're creating. So
heck yeah. And I know, because I love them. I love doing weddings. I know I probably won't stop doing weddings until I can't walk.
Yeah.
So I will always be down to do a wedding. But of course, I have other goals I want to do. This was definitely one of the big ones that came crazy early. But far as like, far as the other stuff, I do have some other things I want to do. But yeah, my goal for the weddings, I think you'd be the first besides my family that I told. I want to get my prices at least up to like 3K, but the highest 5K. If I get 5K, I sit there forever. Like literally, I won't have to go. Like I know videographers, they charge 10K.
Yeah.
But they in Texas and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that's why eventually I want to go into that market, like the Texas market and like the Tennessee market and stuff like that. Yeah. So I can have some of those weddings like that and get my name in there. Because I know once I do quite a few up there, and of course the family's gonna speak. They gonna talk about you if you got the work. So, but yeah, I mainly that's definitely the main reason I'm going so hard with the weddings. Not because I'm building a reputation, but also for a family, my brother. I want him to have an income. He says he don't want to go to college. I was like, okay, you gonna have to do certain stuff, and he got his little thing he's doing on the side, but also I might be able to give him something that, I can just give it to him.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And so that's the main reason why I still try to push hard as I can. And even if it makes me, because shooting so many weddings, of course you get tired.
Yeah, well that's what I was thinking too, like burnout.
You will get burned out. Yeah, of course. But like I'm young. I'm 23. So I always been told like work now, play later. Yeah. So like that's what I've been doing ever since high school. Like I always was different because I would rather work than go do what they're doing. I always been that way. And so I know for a fact if I keep going on this path and keep perfecting it, keep growing it, and potentially grow the team, because that is one of my goals, to hire a photographer. Yeah. And potentially maybe hire another video person, maybe, since there'd be two of us. But I know that is one of my goals, to hire a photographer. Yeah. In the meantime, I wonder, is there a photographer that you know pretty well that like, because I know a couple of photographers, they have kind of just like deals worked out with like hair and makeup people, and that, if you book through the recommendation of like the photographer, the hair and makeup person, then you get like 10% off, or they kind of support each other in that way to get bookings. Like if there was a photographer that was like a recommended person by you, that like say they reached out to the photographer first, because I mean they're gonna get their wedding dress, book their venue, and get their photographer, like the first three things that people do. Yeah. So if there's like a photographer that like only recommends you as a videographer. I do have one. I do have one. She's been on the podcast for sure. She was the first episode. Okay. Like she's done. I can't never thank her enough. Like she's like the main reason why my wedding company has popped off. Yeah. Because she was recommending me to every bride she ever talked to. And so that's why I do the same for her. Yeah. And we do have like a little deal going on, of course, but we don't have like a set package where it's like the whole thing is this much. You know, some people they do that, but we are comfortable with what we're doing with each other, what we're doing. So, but yeah, she's I always tell like, get her. If you can get me, if you don't get me, I always say get her. Yeah. And they be just laughing when I tell them that, but I'm like, I'm dead serious. If you're not gonna book me, you might be talking to me. If you don't book me, book her. If you ain't got a photographer. Yeah. But yeah, I always thank her every time I see her. I actually, that's funny. The wedding this weekend, she's gonna be there. Okay. Yeah, because I was trying to remember if it was this weekend or if it was the next wedding that you were gonna be at, and this it was weekend, one. Sydney. Mm-hmm. Yeah. The photographer. They're precious. Have you talked to the photographer? I haven't. Who's it again? Helena. Yes. She's been out there a few different times. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah. Yeah. That's my girl. Yeah. She's number one for me for sure. Like she's a fun one. There's some good vendors. Yeah. Me and her worked at Dotson Farm. I think about all the weddings I've done, besides one wedding, I didn't get to work with her at Dotson Farm. She was at all the other ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, I want to say that 'cause I work with her all the time. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think videography is for sure I mean, it's great to look at pictures, but to see things in motion is just a whole different perspective of, you know, making a memory and, you know, being able to revisit it.
Heck yeah, it's like a whole movie. I mean, I was telling the brides at the expo, like, yeah, like I'm not knocking photos at all. I love photos. But like, just imagine you have a movie that can tell the dialogue, that has dialogue in it, and can capture the core with no, you know, just soon as being done, you can see it by like how it was before everybody got there, and then having, like I said, the dialogue where the grandmothers probably said something on camera, or your dad laughing with one of the groomsmen. You know, it's a whole different.
Yeah.
Like the dialogue gives a soul to it.
As a bride and groom, you're being pulled in so many different directions on the day. You're not able to be in every like fun situation or every conversation. And so like the videographer kind of catching those moments, it's like, oh, I didn't know that happened or that was said, or that those two made such a good connection, or you know, between groomsmen or different bridesmaids or whatever. I mean, you just never know, and it's kind of fun to be able to go back and see those.
And that's things. One of my packages I'm finna do, where they kind of call it a reality type thing, but I'm gonna be doing like interviews on the day of the wedding. Yeah, so like normally I just do like the first looks, then the ceremony. I mic up just those, and if they ask for to be mic'd up at a certain situation, I would. But like now, I'm planning on doing like cause I got 3 packages. I'm planning on doing a 4 package, and I actually have a video that I done it. And like when I watch it, I filmed it beginning of last year, and I kind of forgot that I filmed it. But when I go back and watch it, and even compared to my new stuff, it's like I really like that. Yeah. Cause the grandmother's in it. She's talking. Like she was talking about the groomsmen, how they used to call him Donald Duck and stuff like you never would know that if she never did say that. Yeah. So I'm definitely gonna add that package. Yeah, that's cool. Maybe very soon. I want to go ahead and add it, cause that's something I feel like somebody would want to have. Cause of course grandparents are a little older, they want to have something. Yeah, so I was thinking. Yeah, having them. Then the parents, of course, and maybe the little brother might be a little crazy. He want to say something about his sister or something. You know, it'd be funny to hear him talk about it. But I'm definitely gonna add that. I appreciate you for coming by, and I think this was a great episode for sure. Got to learn about Dotson Farm and how y'all able to make the days more memorable and everything. So I just want to say thank you once again, and
thank you for having me. This was really fun, and everyone should book Keyshawn for all the photography, videography needs, and then obviously come see us at Dotson Farm too.
Of course, most definitely. Stay tuned for that wedding. I'm most than likely gonna post that wedding that I'm gonna have this weekend on YouTube. So stay tuned for that.
It's gonna be fun.
And so you can check out Dotson Farm as well. But Connect Media out. See you when I see you.